We're doing two NBA player props here on PrizePicks for Friday, December 13th. Friday the 13th. Before we get started, link in the description below. You guys hop into the Discord. $9.30 per month, 31 cents per day. So I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. We have other cappers in there as well. Overall, super positive community. Everyone in there just trying to help each other cash. Currently doing a promo right now for first-time members of the Discord. 20% off your first month by using the link in the description below and promo code TUFF. Again, that's link in the description below using promo code TUFF for 20% off your first month. Again, not financial advice, you guys. Not a gambling expert. Just simply plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully giving you guys some insight and analysis to make your own player prop decisions here. But let's get right into it. You guys got two player props here from this NBA slate here. Pretty decent slate. We haven't had a big NBA slate like all week, it feels like, with the NBA Cup games. Again, I want to get this video out and keep this video as short as possible. Let's get into it. First play is going to be Pascal Siakam, over 32 fantasy score. Obviously, this game, Joel Embiid is expected to play, and we go back to the funnel or the system play of power forwards versus the 76ers, right? Going back to even last season, right, this was a system play where power forwards, because Joel Embiid causes so much, attention on the defensive side of the ball, it makes power forwards just, I don't know what it is specifically. I mean, obviously, because, defensively, Miles Turner is going to be guarding Joel Embiid, which Joel Embiid takes a shot, he misses. Pascal Siakam is there for the rebound. But even offensively, it creates a ton of upside for the power forwards too. Again, for whatever reason that is, I don't really understand it. But again, power forwards versus 76ers when Embiid plays is an absolute elite system, in my opinion. Pascal Siakam as well this season. He averages more points on the road. Again, 1.3 more points per game on the road here. Again, the Pacers offense is a little bit more stagnant on the road, but I think it creates more usage for Pascal Siakam on the road because, a player like Tyrese Maxey struggles so much on the road. But we look at Pascal Siakam this season, right, over on Outlier. Again, link in the description. You get a 7-day free trial. He's over this line in his last 3 games versus Philadelphia, and more specifically, like, against Joel Embiid when Embiid plays. You can see last season he played 30 minutes versus Philadelphia with Embiid on the floor. He had 54.6 fantasy in 30 minutes, 26, 13, and 10. No steals or blocks as well. 9 for 13 from the field. Just an elite game for him overall. And again, he's over this line in his last 3 of 5 games. He had 34 fantasy earlier this season versus the Indiana Pacers. Again, that was with Joel Embiid not playing, which obviously gives him a lot more upside in this one, obviously. But we look at forwards, fantasy score game log this season versus the 76ers when logging 28-plus minutes. This is just kind of essentially as of late, or, we hadn't had a ton of games really. But Franz Wagner put up 45-plus in back-to-back games versus Philly. Brandon Miller, 39. Amen Thompson, 51.4. Cam Johnson, 43. Jimmy Butler, 52.5. And, I mean, this is really just in the last, couple games they've had. If we do kind of wipe out and we just do, 24-plus minutes as the filter just to kind of see, a broader spectrum of forwards against them, even Saloon had 27 against Philly. Even when Embiid doesn't play, forwards have a ton of upside for whatever reason. Derrick Jones Jr. had 33.6 in only 25 minutes, 18, 3, and 2, and 3 steals. So, again, in a game that does have a 6.5-point spread, but we know, Philly's not very good. They are going to have their big 3 fully healthy, but, Indiana is obviously a team that can stay in games with their high-powered offense. I do just think there's a ton of upside here for Pascal. A relatively low line at 32 fantasy. If you just compare Pascal to other players in this game, he does have, I think, a ton of upside given how low of a fantasy score line he does, in fact, have. And again, his numbers are actually a little bit better here on the road. And if we look at 2024, he's over this line in 14 to 25 games. He's had a rough stretch here, but again, they haven't played in 5 days, so hopefully the time off has really helped him. In games this season, when he does play essentially 30-plus minutes on the road, he is over this line in 8 of 13 games with a pretty high floor of essentially 28 fantasy points. So again, just looking for him to, make up those 4 fantasy points, kind of the average he has been seeing as of late here, but it's a great matchup. If we take a look even as well over on Outlier, kind of how the power forwards match up, and he's a traditional power forward, right? Miles Turner plays the 5, he plays the 4. I mean, Philadelphia allows the 7th most points and the 5th most rebounds to the power forward position. So as far as matchups go, it's as elite as you can get for Pascal at 32. I think it's a little bit too low. That's the first play. The second play here is going to be another fantasy score line. It's going to be Brandon Clarke for the Memphis Grizzlies. This is a super interesting one. I think that, casual NBA fan might not even know who Brandon Clarke is, but he's a player that was super impactful for the Grizzlies early on in his career, and then tore his Achilles a couple years ago. But just now seeing himself get back. The big thing here is Zach Edey is doubtful. If for some reason Zach Edey does come out and play, like, this line will be completely messed up for us. But he's currently doubtful. We know how NBA injury reports are, but if he's listed as doubtful earlier in the day here, I can't see them forcing him to play. Obviously, he's a big body, and obviously this is a winnable game, I think, for the Memphis Grizzlies at home. They are actually 10-point favorites, so there should be a ton of opportunity here for Brandon Clarke. Take a look at him here this season, and again, he has been starting with Zach Edey out, and he has been getting decent minutes, I guess, without him. But he's over this line in 2 of his last 2, before getting this break here. 42.6 fantasy in 26 minutes against the Celtics, and 28.4 here in 23 minutes against the Washington Wizards. If we take a look over on Outlier, again, this season, he's over this line in 6 of 10 games when he plays 20-plus minutes. If he plays at home, he's over in 3 of 6, right, averaging around 23.1 fantasy. But you can see the high floor for this line. In games of 20-plus minutes at home, he's only had at least 90.4 fantasy in every game. In games when he plays, at least 20-plus minutes on the season, he's at least 17.2. So this is an extremely high floor for a player, essentially, who I think is able to impact the game defensively as well, giving us that stock and steal upside. But like I said, Zach Edey doubtful this season with Zach Edey off the floor. Brandon Clarke in 444-minute sample size, so a pretty decent sample size. He's averaging 35.3 fantasy points per 36 minutes, averaging 1 point fantasy points per minute. Again, given the type of minute upside he has been seeing as of late, 26 and 23, I think in a competitive game, 20 plus is going to be a floor for him. But really, it's just an elite matchup. He's actually faced Brooklyn twice this season. I think twice this season, twice. And he had 9.5 fantasy in 11 minutes here back against Brooklyn on November 4th, when, again, he was kind of just getting back into the rotation. Again, he wasn't really in the rotation at all, only playing 11 minutes, and still, nonetheless, in that game had in that game had 9.5 fantasy. And then again, he played Brooklyn again here in 20 minutes, and came a game that was a little bit more of a blowout and saw more minutes in 20 minutes, 13-3, 1 and 2 steals. And in that game, I believe Zach Edey played as well. I think he came off the bench. Yeah, I mean, he came off the bench in that one and played 20 minutes and had 24 plus fantasy. Zach Edey played 18. You can see here that the bench got a ton of run, and that was kind of when the Grizzlies rotations were a lot different. But again, this should be a decently close game, and I think there's a ton of fantasy score upside for Brandon Clarke. We look at centers fantasy score game log this season. When logging 20 plus minutes versus the Brooklyn Nets, you can see the type of monster games team players have had, and essentially 21 different centers, are labeled centers, have had at least 24 plus fantasy points. All we need here, you can see the hit rate, right? 21 centers have had at least 24 or more fantasy points here against the Brooklyn Nets. All we need here is 20.6 from Brandon Clarke. So two plays for this YouTube video, guys. Check out all the links in the description below. Please drop a like on this video and hit the subscribe button. And as always, let's cash.